myself. My name is Morgan Ritter, and I work at the Regional Arts and Culture Council. My official title is Public Art Exhibitions and Collections Coordinator. And so basically I do a lot of the handling of artwork and curating and placing the artwork in city and county buildings, and also work with the collections coordinator and the whole public art team on maintaining and organizing public art projects. And this is a special project that we've developed in the face of COVID as a response to offer support for artists kind of longer term through this time. And yeah, and Salvador is here. Sal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Salvador. I work with Morgan in the public art program at RACC. I'm here mostly to help facilitate. I'm going to be utilizing the chat box, and we're asking all of you to do the same. If you have questions throughout the presentation, just go ahead and put them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them as we move along. But we'll also have time at the end to if you have any questions, answer them then. And again, we'll be utilizing the chat box for that, just to kind of keep things in one space. Yeah. And also I'll be, as we're moving along, I'll be uploading links to some of the things that Morgan will be discussing in her presentation in the chat box for you to be able to go to and view while we're doing this. So.
Great. All right. Yeah, thank you, Sal. That'll be really helpful. I hope people will have access to those links. And if there's any technical issues, you can email Sal or I, or enter any comments in the chat box, and we'll try to get to it quickly. We've never done a virtual info session, so hopefully it goes pretty smoothly. Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. Okay. Okay, I hope everyone can see this. So, welcome to the Support Beam info session. Normally we do this in person in our offices at RACC, but yeah, again, this is our first time doing virtually, and I'm pretty excited about it. I may have gotten a little carried away with some of the graphics. So this project is funded by the Multnomah County Percent for Art program, and also on this first page there is a link at the bottom that you can access to all of the emergency programs that we're working on. I'll talk more about it in a couple slides. Okay, here's a Google Earth shot of our office, which is on Northwest Park between Gleason and Flanders. It's across from PNCA in downtown, and also across from Adams and Ullman Gallery and near Pearl. So this is where we normally do workshops and events and have panels for various calls and grants and meetings. We also have computers accessible to artists for their own use, and usually have an open door policy. Our mission is to enrich our communities through arts and culture. So RACC is a 501c3 nonprofit, and it provides grants for artists and nonprofit organizations within the region. It manages an internationally acclaimed public art program, convenes forums, networking events, and other community gatherings, provides workshops and other forms of technical assistance, and advocates for equity, inclusion, and access, and just creating a space where everyone feels included and participating in arts experiences, cultural experiences. So we're here to support everyone. If anyone has technical needs or accessibility requests, just let us know. You can enter any requests in the chat box or email us. Sal will include our emails in the chat box. And then those are also, I think we can be reached on the website too. So RACC has developed a few programs in the face of COVID to offer more support to artists especially, and arts organizations and arts workers. Support Beam is this slide. This is the info session for Support Beam, and I'm really excited about this. This is a project that I've been developing with my colleagues for the past couple months, and basically it's kind of like a hybrid between a commission and a residency. It's intended to strengthen artists towards the production of new work over a period of 3 to 6 months. So it's a bit of a kind of a long-term support project. The overall budget is $70,000, and artists will receive between $3,000 and $5,000, and the deadline to apply is June 3rd. So we'll talk in detail about Support Beam during this PowerPoint. And then the Visual Chronicle of Portland. This is another project that Public Art has just released the call for. It's a purchase opportunity for works on paper that portray Portland and what artists feel make Portland unique. The budget is $15,000, and individual pieces should be priced no more than $1,000. And the deadline to apply for this is May 27th, which is just a bit before Support Beam. And Visual Chronicle is having a virtual info session like this Thursday. I think many of you are RSVP'd for that as well. And we'll have Keith and Danielle from Public Art discuss some details about this opportunity at the end of this info session. Okay, and then there's also this Oregon Arts and Culture Recovery Program. This is for arts nonprofits, and it's administered by the Oregon Community Foundation. So you can read more about this opportunity there. And then I'm sure many of you have heard about the Emergency Fund for Artists and Arts Workers. This is an emergency program to offer $500 awards for people that have experienced financial loss due to COVID. And currently the application is closed for this emergency fund, but it will reopen as soon as we get more funds and donations. Okay, and this is where you can read a lot more about those opportunities. This is artsimpactfund.racc.org. And RACC offers programs including grants. So we have project grants, which are for individual artists and arts organizations, professional development grants, individual artist fellowships, and general operating support. So those are grants for organizations. And we don't have any upcoming deadlines for grants at the moment because those funds, I believe, are being channeled into the emergency fund. But we will have updates on these grants this summer as soon as we get some budget things combed out and discover what the community needs in this time. And our public art program has a Percent for Art program. So that is money from new developments that goes directly to the arts. We have temporary public art programs. One of them is fresh paint. Let me refer to my notes here. So Fresh Paint is a temporary mural project with Open Signal, which is a media arts center. And that's on MLK. And then Visual Chronicle, which we mentioned earlier, and then we'll also get some more details at the end of this info session. And the Portable Works collection is interesting. That is the 2- and 3-dimensional artworks that rotate throughout city and county buildings, made by artists in Oregon and Washington. So that's a big part of what my job handles. And I'm really interested in tending to the collection and caring for the artwork. And those art pieces eventually get placed in libraries and courthouse and city hall and police bureau and just so many different places, publicly accessible buildings. And we'll talk about it more in this info session, but Support Beam is connected to the Portable Works collection because one piece created during Support Beam will be acquired into the Portable Works collection, which is very exciting, and eventually displayed publicly. So here's a little inspirational page for Support Beam. This is why I was calling it the Support Beam. Imagining a beam extending beyond the room it is in. I was thinking about the lockdown and wanting to provide kind of an expansive support to artists. Upholding art, furthering artists' structure and support. So like I said, Support Beam is a commission/residency hybrid. It's kind of a new initiative for us, and therefore I think it's really exciting. It's for emerging visual artists living in Oregon and Southwest Washington. And it is this program that's intended to strengthen artists towards production of new work and basically continuing to create work during this difficult and strange time that we're in for 3 to 6 month duration. And this new work is artist defined. So artists get to decide what they want to work on. And it can be unusual. It can stray from previous work, and it can be experimental. We're just really excited to support artists in any discipline and media that they'd like to work with, as long as the one piece that we acquire will be wall mounted, or it has to have the function to be hung on a wall. And we'll talk more about that. And really it's intended to empower artists wherever they are. So, you know, they don't have to be, you don't have to have a formal art studio. You can make work in your kitchen, you can make work in your garage, your backyard. We just really wanted to empower artists to make work wherever and however they feel. And this image is from the WPA, which was a big inspiration for this initiative. And the WPA supported artists after the Depression in kind of cultivating their artistic skills and offering like a salary basically to artists after the Depression to keep, you know, artistic production alive and keep artists feeling healthy. So details for Support Beam. Again, the budget is $70,000. Artists will receive between $3,000 and $5,000. And there's a virtual aspect that we're requesting artists to contribute, and that will kind of animate their work for the public and create a connection with arts communities and the public, which I think will be really healing for everybody. And that virtual aspect can be in whatever form that makes sense to the artist. So we're open to more suggestions here. I threw out virtual studio visits, online interview, blog post, studio diaries. We're really open to however artists feel like they would like to explore sharing their work publicly, their work in progress. And again, one artwork produced during Support Beam will be accessioned into the Portable Works collection. And you can visit the collection in this link here. I believe Sal has included it in the chat. So that link will give you a good impression of some of the work that we have in the collection and where it is currently displayed. It's really fun to discover. There's just so much work and so many different artists and approaches to making work in the collection. And we're just really excited to expand that and diversify the collection. And this piece by Naomi Shigeta, All the World's a Stage. It's one of my favorite pieces in the collection, and it's currently installed at the Emergency Management Coordination Center, which is in Southeast Foster area, 99th, I believe. It was coincidental. This is one of my favorite pieces, and then I just felt like it made so much sense for this call because it's about structures kind of like breaking and transforming. Okay, so the portable works, like I said, are installed in city and county buildings. And here's an example of one of the, I think this is a county office. And I'm not sure which one this is, but this is just kind of an example of what the space may look like. It also could be like a courthouse, you know, or they really vary. Some of the buildings are very old feeling. Some of the buildings are very new. So this is a piece by Ralph Puget, and it's called Cattle Rave. I'm including it because it's a new piece in the portable collection that's now currently installed at the newly renovated Portland building. I think it's a really amazing and humorous piece. I hope everyone can see it. Okay, and then here's a Marie Watt piece, which is also included in the portable collection at the Portland building. This piece is pretty small, and she makes her work with reclaimed wool blankets.
Morgan, we've got a couple questions coming in. Do you mind addressing them right now?
No, let's do it.
Okay. I've got one question here saying, can you define what you mean by emerging artists?
Yeah, so I have a slide on that. It is a really difficult classification, you know? I completely understand why they're asking that. I think I'm gonna get to that in right there. So it's just 2 slides away. So maybe I can just wait for those, and then if there's additional questions, they can enter them in the chat box.
Okay, we have 2 just regarding like video installation work and installation art, but yeah. I'd say, let's continue, and then we'll bring them back up again if they aren't announced.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So the eligibility criteria We are prioritizing applications from Black artists, Indigenous artists, and artists of color. That's to acknowledge the disproportionate impact that COVID has had on art, on communities of color and artists of color. So, and then also to more accurately represent the region and to diversify the art collection. And artists must have no more than 2 artworks within the collection. So that is an attempt to, to showcase artists who are not well represented in the collection already. And emerging visual artists in Oregon and Southwest Washington. So what is emerging? Emerging artists, it's difficult to define, as I said, but we're defining it in this way. As an artist who is at an early stage in their career, typically in their 3rd to 12th year of making art, emerging doesn't refer to the age of the artist. So they're not beginning artists, and they're in between the spectrum of beginning artists, and they're not mid-career or established artists who are at a point in their careers where they receive consistent development and production opportunities, significant recognition, awards, and acclaim. So an emerging artist exists between these two. And students are eligible. And we're kind of leaving it up to artists to sort of self-select if they feel that they can identify as an emerging artist. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, and visual art, kind of similarly, I wonder if some people are like, what exactly is visual art? It's pretty broad. So all artistic disciplines that can be publicly displayed. What I mean by that is these works will be displayed in publicly accessible spaces. So they need to obviously not have any, it's really difficult to place work that has depictions of violence and anything that could potentially trigger a traumatic response in the public. Okay, and then also utilizing traditional art media, such as painting and drawing and photography, but also including, which is really exciting, new media and video. We're including those, and we'll just, accommodate that work by getting a wall-mounted television monitor. We're also excited to include textiles and assemblage, and really pretty broad here in terms of discipline. There are no required prompts or themes, and artists define their own concepts. So this is not work that is based on COVID. This is work that is made during this time and can be however the artist wants to explore, whatever the artist wants to explore. And to the extent possible, this visual art should be rendered in archival media. We understand that it may be difficult to access archival materials right now, but this is just to say that we would hope that it could be archival as best as possible, just to have a longer lasting lifespan of the artwork.
Morgan, I think there might be 2 questions that are pertinent right now.
Okay.
One of them says, does installation art qualify?
That seems tricky because I would be the one installing the artwork on site in the spaces. So there's not like a permanent site for these pieces. The portable artwork collection rotates. So I think installation art would be difficult to rotate, just considering our capacity. I will say that we have an installation space, which is a gallery within the Portland building. And once that Portland building opens back up, I really encourage that person to apply to showcase their work within the installation space, because that is like site-specific, experimental, immersive installation work. I do want to say that I think some other disciplines like performance and maybe social practice, and I think if they can find a way to represent their project in a two-dimensional way, then I think we'd be open to considering it for support beam.
And I think that hits on another question. Just someone's asking, would a video installation work? So
it would be displayed ultimately on a video monitor. So I'm not sure if that would make sense for this person's art practice. So it's up to them to determine. Yeah, because this collection of work rotates. So it wouldn't be like I don't think we can accommodate a projection, like kind of immersive installation. We really are just, but feel free to email me too, and then we can keep in touch if there's any more questions about the video work, and I can talk about it with my colleagues too. And are those the main questions right now?
I mean, we're still getting some more, but I think for right now, yeah, that'll work.
Okay, and then artwork must be no greater than 60 by 60 by 4 inches deep. And 60 by 60, that's about 5 feet by 5 feet. That's basically just our capacity for traveling and, again, installing the works and placing them in city and county buildings. And then the 4-inch depth is a maximum because of the ADA regulations. So that's to accommodate wheelchairs and other devices in hall spaces. So the 4-inch deep. So it could be a sculptural work, and I have an example of that. This is a piece made out of, I believe it's bamboo and nails and some fabric. Darlene Wynn Eli. This piece has a 4-inch depth to it. So this is an example of a sculptural artist creating a work that can be wall mounted.
We did get also a question too about weight. Does weight matter? And this person says from AGC who works in stone.
That's a good question. I think we can accommodate most weights, and Keith, my colleague who has been a longtime RACC public art staff member, can potentially chime in on that, but we typically install all of the artwork with security anchors, and they support pieces, I believe, up to about 200 pounds.
Yeah,
so
this is just jumping in. I would say that we could probably accommodate most things. If it's a wall piece, you know, it's not going to be solid stone all the way up and down the wall. That's probably doable. But I think we could probably work with most artists to figure out solutions.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Keith. Let's see. Okay. So application materials, up to 8 images of past work. So that can be up to 2 per work. So that would be 1 photo and then 1 detail of that piece. So 1 one art piece and one detail. 2 images maximum per piece. And then up to 8 images. I hope that makes sense. It's always a little bit tricky for me to talk about that. We recommend artists to include conceptual information or background on the work that they're including in their application. That really helps convey context and just kind of like opportunity for an artist statement, just providing context for a panel who is not or may not be familiar with the artist's work. I really recommend artists including the conceptual background on their pieces. So we're also asking for a resume or some kind of list of artistic activities. You could include a bio. It could be a bio, you know, some background on the artist and their activities and, you know, achievements and opportunities that they've received or created for themselves. And then the statement of interest. So this is a really kind of important narrative, and we've broken it up into 3 parts. So again, we're really trying to lower the barriers, and hopefully this is pretty not too difficult to do this application. The statement of interest is, I would say, the most important. This and the images are very important for the panel. This is how the panel will kind of rate well, let's see, how do I say it? This is one of the criteria that will determine where you rank in terms of receiving support beam or not. So it will give an impression to the panel on your unique artistic voice, and that's really important. And because we're not asking for an artist statement, this first question around past artwork, that is kind of like an opportunity for a casual artist statement. It can be really brief, just kind of like an overview meant to allow some reflection and help you define your artistic voice and your artistic goals within your practice. So how does your past artwork inform your current artistic direction? And then the next part of the statement of interest is the impact. So in what ways would support beam propel your practice forward in this direction? So we just want to know how this opportunity would move you towards your vision and how it would impact your practice and support you. And then the third part is just kind of a loose plan for the virtual aspect. So whatever makes sense to you within your work, but knowing that this can evolve as the project evolves, what might your virtual share out be? And those examples again were like a virtual studio visit that can be recorded with your phone. You know, you don't need to have high quality video recording equipment. It can be recorded with your phone or a friend's phone, computer, could be voice memo, interview. It could be so many different things, and we're really excited to hear what artists might want to do for sharing their work in progress.
Morgan, before you move on, we got another question about video work. Would you want moving images of past work?
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. Sal, and you're an expert on the application portal, so we can accommodate that, right? Potentially links to videos.
Yeah, I believe it's set up to accept video files. I would say the way it's set up also for the panel to view them, it might not be the easiest thing.
Yeah.
So I would say if you are planning to upload your images, or say your images are really heavy video,
Mhm.
reach out to us and we can figure out how we can best accommodate that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in the past with applications, we've had artists link videos via like Vimeo or YouTube. So I think that would be the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, so this is a screen capture of the application portal. It's called the Opportunity Portal. And so it's rac.org/apply. And this is where you'll create your username and then enter all of your application materials. And Sal, you can feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything here. This is another image. This is not specific to this call, but this is just an example of what it looks like. And yeah, we would again have the 8 images, the resume, and then this narrative. And I forgot to mention that the narrative, the statement of interest, it will be, it is maximum 3,000 characters. So that's approximately 1 page, I believe, or a little bit less. And it can be less than 1 page. Just, I really encourage artists to be precise and just honest in their language. So the deadline to apply again is June 3rd. That's a Wednesday. And the website that you would enter your application is rac.org/apply. And we have some tips here to research the collection online before submitting. I think this can just help people gauge what kind of work we've supported in the past, and then also recognizing that this project intends to support emerging artists and maybe work that's a little bit more experimental or sort of expanding the disciplines of what is represented in the collection right now. And again, please ask questions. You can email myself or Salvador. Our emails are in the chat box. And you can also just find an email on the website, the info@rac.org email. We can get emails just forwarded to us. So if for some reason you don't save our emails, just find an email through the website and then they can forward those messages to us. And if the application portal presents a barrier, if it's difficult to apply or if there's some web issues, let us know and we'll do all that we can to assist. And so once you've applied, the selection process is made up by a panel of artists, administrators, and Multnomah County staff and curators will select the artists. So this is Public Art Committee, and we're also including some county staff. And yeah, I'm really excited for the panel conversations. Artists will be selected based on their ability to demonstrate those 3 things that I mentioned in the statement of interest, which is the originality of vision, just the artist's unique voice, the dedication to their artistic practice. So that can be really helpful to understand how an artist has created their work and how they're maintain and embody their art practice. So in whatever way you interpret that, I think it'll be really interesting to highlight that aspect. And then also your past work's overall suitability for public display. Again, that's if, you know, we need to select artists that, you know, are not like have super violent or like profanities or, you know, nudity. Like it's going to be really difficult to place that in a city or county building. So so when you're selecting your images, I would really recommend putting work that is suitable for public display. And I want to emphasize that the statement of interest and the images really breathe life into your application. That's really the criteria that will be used to determine who receives the support beam commission. And so just let us know if you have any questions about how to represent your work. It is a little tricky, but I'm really excited to see the variety of responses. Okay, and then the next steps for artists, once they're selected, they will share a loose plan for what they intend to work on with myself and the public art team. So we'll be working together to develop kind of that loose plan of what they intend to do during those 3 to 6 months. And then the payments will be broken up into 3 payments, so in thirds. And let us know if you have questions about that. The virtual contribution, that can happen again in whatever way makes sense to the artist's practice and their thinking. And that's also something that is a little flexible. We can, you know, have a conversation about what makes sense and where you'd like that to live. But we're imagining those virtual contributions to be on the RACC website and then also potentially on the RACC social media. So yeah, again, we can discuss that with each artist. And then the acquisition of one piece, that we would acquire one piece at the end of the artist's work period. And the RACC staff can work with the artist on determining that. So here are my and Salvador's emails. Also, you're welcome to take a screenshot of this.
Morgan, I just want to reiterate, I answered this in the chat section, but this is being recorded and we will send this out to folks so they can refer to it later as well.
Good, yeah, exactly. And then we'll also, have an accessible version. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us virtually, and let's go through those questions.
We just received a question and it is saying, is there a budget section in the application?
There's not, but artists in the application portal will select what amount of money makes sense for what they intend to do.
And actually, yeah, so in the application, you get to tell us where in between the 3,000 to 5,000 amount you think would be sufficient to execute what you're planning to do. And that will be taken into consideration in the panel. We do note that, you know, these are recommendations. We're going to try to do our best to award or fund accordingly, but you know, with a certain amount of funding, there's just challenges, and we want to make sure that this gets dispersed to as many people as possible as well. So
Yes, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's other questions. I haven't looked at the chat. Okay, it looks like there might not be any other immediate questions. I do really recommend people to get in touch if questions come up. Oh,
did you see the most recent one?
Oh, so should we have concepts or descriptions of past work included in the image file or a separate place? So that will be included in the image file, and you'll see all of this might be clarified if you can just go into the application portal and make a username and explore the stages to the application. That might be helpful for people just to gauge, you know, where things live. Within the image area, there's an option to provide a brief conceptual background per image. So that's where that would live. What is the activity period for creating the work? So the activity period, we have proposed, well, let's see. We're structuring it with a 3 to 6 month duration. So the artists will select within that, just like they would select the amount of money that would make sense for the work they want to do. They would select the duration ideal for their work. And yeah, and we're also flexible on time. Thanks, Kristen. Great, I'm so glad.
Okay, well, it looks like that's most questions have been answered. If folks have any more questions, they can send to us. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'm really excited about this. And please share with artists and friends and communities that you think would be interested. That would be awesome.
Hi, Morgan. This is Keith. I'm wondering if we could jump in here briefly and just give a quick shout out for the Visual Chronicle purchase session.
Yes.
If you're interested in that, that is going to happen. We're going to have an info session on Thursday, same time, same way of getting into Zoom through Eventbrite. This is a purchase opportunity for works on paper. The Visual Chronicle is an archive that goes back to 1985. We have collected almost every year works on paper, prints, photographs, drawings, painting on paper. We're doing the application process all online this time around. We are doing a response to COVID. We're asking that artists who live in Oregon or Southwest Washington submit work that maybe captures some of the moment. We do not want you to get at risk and go out to make art for this. But that's one of the options. The other option is, I don't want to have anything to do with COVID. I want to, you know, do something that defines Portlandness, landscapes, peoplescapes, urbanscapes. At the info session, we'll talk about, you know, how we can blur some of those lines. We've got a great budget this time around, $15,000, and that doesn't include framing. We're going to pull framing money from somewhere else. So your submissions can be just your work on paper. We're going to do it all online. If you're selected, you'll get 70% upfront. So you're going to give a purchase price to everything. You'll have 70% upfront, and you'll deliver the artwork when it makes sense to do that, when kind of the city starts back up again. We are acknowledging the impact that COVID-19 and the quarantine has had on communities of color. So we'll be doing the same thing, prioritizing submissions by Black artists, Indigenous artists, artists of color. We are going to use the same application portal. So it's going to be very similar to what you're seeing here tonight. And I hope that you'll consider checking out the Visual Chronicle collection and the info session on Thursday, 5:30. Thank you.
And I should also say artists can apply for both opportunities.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we really encourage that. Thanks, Keith. All right, well, everyone, thank you so much. Feel free to go explore those web pages that are linked in the chat. Also, you can just go to the RACC website and find your way there organically. Arts Impact page that was linked, that has those COVID responses. So those opportunities that are available in this immediate time. Yeah, but also feel free to explore there and explore the collection. All right, I think that's it. I don't think we have any more questions. So I guess I will say thank you so much for joining. Wow, how did that happen?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. This is Hugh Russell. Thanks. I came in late. I've never been on Zoom before, but thank you so much.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, Amira.
Thank
you so
Amira.
much for saying that. All right.
Okay. Toodles.
Bye.